Dr. Zilrath had studied xenobiology for 3 centuries, analyzing genetic samples from over 400 species across the galaxy. The newly inducted humans had agreed to provide biological samples for the Galactic Archives, a routine procedure for new council members. It should have been simple. It was anything but. The human sample, taken from a volunteer named Private James Walker, sat in the sterile containment field of Laboratory 7 on the research station Kepler 9. Dr. Zilrath's tentacles manipulated the holographic controls, preparing to run a standard genetic analysis. Beginning cellular examination, she announced to her assistant, a young Methodian named Kiv. "Let's see what makes these Deathworlders tick." The microscopic imaging revealed the DNA strand, and Zilrath paused. Human genetic code was messy. Most sapient species had clean, elegant genomes, millions of years of evolution producing streamlined efficiency. Human DNA looked like a war zone. "These markers," Kiv said, geometrical form pulsing with confusion. "Are those viral insertions?" "Hundreds of them," Zilrath confirmed, her voice tight. "Their genome is littered with ancient viral DNA. It's like reading a history of biological warfare written directly into their cells." She continued the analysis, and the abnormalities multiplied. Humans had redundant systems for everything: backup genes, alternative pathways, failsafes upon failsafes. Their immune system wasn't just defensive, it was aggressively adaptive, capable of learning and evolving in real time. "Run the standard stress test," Zilrath ordered. "Let's see how their cells respond to environmental challenges." This was protocol: expose a genetic sample to simulated stressors to understand a species' adaptive limitations. They'd done it thousands of times. Kiv activated the stress protocols. First, temperature variation. The human cells adapted within minutes, activating heat shock proteins that would have taken most species generations to evolve. Then radiation exposure. The DNA began repairing itself faster than the radiation could damage it. "That's not normal," Kiv whispered. "Increase stress levels," Zilrath commanded, scientific curiosity overriding caution. They introduced toxins. The cells metabolized them. Pathogens. The sample's immune response activated so aggressively it destroyed the simulated infections before they could establish. Oxygen deprivation. The cells shifted to anaerobic metabolism. Then something happened that made Zilrath's 3 hearts stop. The sample started growing. Not reproducing, growing. The cells in the containment field began multiplying at an exponential rate, differentiating, organizing. Within minutes, they'd formed a rudimentary tissue structure. Within an hour, recognizable organs were developing. "Shut it down!" Zilrath shrieked. "Containment protocol emergency override." Alarms blared across the laboratory. The containment field intensified, but the growing mass of human tissue continued expanding. It wasn't conscious, it couldn't be, just a collection of cells responding to stimuli. But it was alive, aggressively alive, and it was adapting to every countermeasure they deployed. "It's trying to survive," Kiv said, his voice filled with terror. "Doctor, the cells are problem-solving. They're working together like a distributed intelligence." Zilrath watched in horror as the tissue mass developed a crude circulatory system, then the beginnings of a nervous network. The cells weren't following a blueprint, they were improvising, adapting, surviving. "How is this possible?" she breathed. She pulled up the genetic markers again, studying them with new understanding. The viral insertions weren't scars, they were weapons. Humanity's evolutionary history was written in biological warfare. Every plague, every pandemic, every parasitic infection had left its mark, and somehow humans had incorporated that hostile code into their own genome. They weren't just survivors of their death world. They were the product of it, down to the cellular level. Emergency purge. Zilrath activated the containment field's incineration protocol. The human tissue mass died instantly, reduced to sterile ash. She and Kiv stood in silence, watching the ashes settle. "We need to report this," Kiv said finally. "Report what?" Zilrath asked. "That human cells are so aggressive they can self-organize into living tissue from a single sample? That their DNA is programmed for survival at a level we've never encountered?" She pulled up Private Walker's file. He was listed as completely average for a human. Normal health. Standard genetic markers. This wasn't an anomaly, this was typical for the species. Zilrath initiated a priority communication to the Galactic Council's Biological Research Division. Her report would be brief but stark. Human genetic analysis reveals unprecedented adaptive capacity. Cellular samples demonstrate autonomous survival responses when stressed. DNA contains extensive viral integration, suggesting species evolved under extreme selective pressure. Recommendation: reclassify humans from Deathworld species to biologically weaponized species. Further recommendation: do not, under any circumstances, attempt cloning or genetic manipulation of human samples. Their cells are programmed to survive. They will find a way. She looked at the empty containment field, still seeing phantom images of those cells organizing, adapting, refusing to die. "Kiv," she said quietly, "remind me never to underestimate what evolution on a Class 12 Deathworld can create. Humans aren't just tough. They're built from the ground up to win a war that never ends, the war for survival. And that programming goes all the way down to their DNA." The ashes of the sample sat inert in the containment field, but Zilrath couldn't shake the feeling that even now, even reduced to constituent atoms, some part of that human genetic code was still trying to survive. Because that's what it was made to do.